Hello, everybody. I'm Russell Hill. I'm the host of WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops to all of you out there today. And I'm joined by...
Hi, everyone. I'm Charity, co-host here today, and we're excited. We have Tim Tipton, the National Development Director at Shottenkirk Automotive. Tim, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, introduce yourself to us. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Sure. So my name's Tim Tipton. I'm the National Development Director for Shottenkirk Automotive Group. It's kind of a vague title, I guess, if you will. I do the training.
Yes, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, development director is what we settled on because I kind of got my hands in a lot of different things. Training is my forte. It's what I enjoy doing the most. And so, whether it's on the variable side or on obviously the fixed ops side, I'm able to go in and help with, the people part of a lot of that, right? I think, in our industry, so much of it is shifting towards digital things that sometimes we forget the people part. And that's kind of where I like to live. That's kind of the focus that I like to bring to. So training is what I love to do, but then I also do special projects and kind of just whatever needs to be done. I like to tell people that I made the mistake of hitting a home run the first couple of times up to the plate. So now I get asked to help and do all the little things. So, but it's great. It's enjoyable to be able to not have the monotony of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So it's the perfect position for me.
Good. I don't know. It was probably being recorded anyway, but I met Tim right after he just started at Tipton of Richardson, which was back then Van Tile before it became a Berkshire Hathaway. But and he was a trainer, and I've pretty much stayed in touch. There was a while there where we didn't communicate, but we've always kind of stayed in touch and live in the same area. So tell us about that journey, how that began, how what was it? Because you're very passionate about training. More importantly, you're passionate about people, not just the training part. So tell us how that journey began, will you?
Sure. So, like you just said, I mean, obviously I started at Tipton of Richardson. I did start in sales and just kind of worked my way up through management and, was blessed. I like to tell people that I happened to land at a very, very well-respected, well-run operationally delership. Tipton of Richardson, I learned from legit some of the best out there.
Yes.
And, I've always had a passion for people. It's always been processes plus your people, right? That's what's actually going to get you, to the objectives that you're trying to achieve. But I really love the people part. The fulfillment piece of being able to, drop some nuggets into somebody's life that actually helps them is really what drives me. I was on the retail side for about 13 years there at Tipton of Richardson. And then I had started to have, kids of my own. They were young and, man, I'm just going to call it and how I see it. I saw way too many miserable rich people. And, there were promises made to me, hey, if you'll stay, this is the next step. This is what's going to happen. And, just honestly, I felt like at that point in my life, after lots of prayer, I felt like it was time to get a better schedule, if you will. And I knew I was passionate about training. And fortunately for me, I was reached out to by Van Tile Group at the time to kind of come on board and revamp their training processes. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up leaving Tipton of Richardson and went to the VT management company and kind of took over their training department and helped develop. When I came on, we had 2 functioning trainings. And when I left, we had like 19 fully functioning trainings. So, but, I chose to make a decision in my own life to watch my little girls grow up, if you will. And it's a decision I don't regret at all. But it was eye-opening to me just how much I would enjoy the fulfillment piece of training somebody and then seeing them a year or 2 years later and checking on them and seeing them start to climb the ladder. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. It's that connection with people. That's what lasts. processes come and go, they change. But if you can connect with people, that's really the secret sauce to life, right?
Well, you were doing something right because in my career, now when I met you, I was with a CRM company called Car Research, and we had most of the Van Tile stores. But I don't even know if you know this, but I worked for him, for Steve Grosjean for 3 years, 92, 93, and 94, back in the early days. And it was the number one place to work in the city at the time, period. I mean, just if you had a chance to get in there. So where I'm going with all this is that when you were asked to become part of the VT management and be a corporate trainer, I mean, that there's a lot of accolades that go along with that, because to stay and make it the cut with VT, particularly with they're so process driven. I mean, that's kudos to you. And how long were you with the management company?
So I was there roughly about 7 years. And then I branched out on my own, and I started my own training and consulting company. And then ran that up until this little thing called COVID-19 took over the world. When your business model is to face-to-face engage with people, and then the world all of a sudden says you can't do that. Yes, it very quickly changed my business model. And that's actually how I got connected with Shottenkirk. The CEO of this company used to run one of the dealerships that was one of my accounts with Van Tile, and he had seen that I had started to do my own training and consulting through LinkedIn of all places, and reached out to me. And that's how I got engaged with Shottenkirk. And then towards the end of COVID, look, being honest, I was sitting at my desk chasing invoices from trainings I had done 3 months before. And, Shottenkirk had stayed in touch with me over the years. Hey, if you ever want to come on full time, And so I just kind of picked up the phone and I said, hey, I think that we should at least have a conversation. And the person I spoke to said, so you would come here and work for us full time? I said, that's not what I said. I said, what I said was we should have a conversation and let's talk about what things look like. And, I'm sitting here, June 1st will be 3 years exclusively working for Shottenkirk. And I can honestly say I'm very glad that I made that call that day, because it's been more than my expectations. I mean, as far as the way that they let me operate in my position, it's as if God said, I have the perfect opportunity for you. And I feel like I'm one of those lucky people in life that actually found it. So.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What kind of common problems do you run into as a trainer?
Well, training has always been this way. You got people who believe in training and you got people who don't. Like the two views of training are it is either an investment or it's an expense, right? So what I've come to embrace over the years is the general managers who maybe are a little bit more on that side of, well, we really don't need any help. Look, you can't force help on anybody, right? You just can't do it. They either receive it because they want it or they fight it. And I would say that with our group, the vast majority of our general managers are very much, anytime that I say, hey, I'm available, they're like, well, come on, we'll take whatever we can get. But to me, that's always kind of the struggle with training is, do they actually want the training or don't they? We have a Friday call, and I shared a quote this morning on our Friday call. I was talking about motivation. We have a phenomenal recognition program that we put on each year with our organization. In fact, it's, most organizations at best, they recognize salespeople. Well, we recognize our top producing salespeople, our top producing sales managers, our top producing business managers. And now here's the big one that I think separates us from, I don't know of anybody else that does something like this. We celebrate our top 2 service managers, the service manager of the year from our domestic stores and from our import stores. And then we also celebrate our top 10 technicians from each of our 3 regions and our top service advisors. So When we talk about an organization who shares the love with FixedOps, this organization puts their money where their mouth is, because I run this program and I can tell you that Mr. Shottenkirk and the Shottenkirk family, they spend a pretty penny because we send everybody to Las Vegas annually for this event. And it's a super big deal. But it's fantastic. It's my favorite night of the year, bar none.
I love it. I love the fact that Lee Iacocca many years ago when he turned Chrysler around in the late 80s said, ladies and gentlemen, in the end, you could sum all businesses up to three things: people, products, and profits, the most important of which are your people. Now, and I think I'm just kind of opening this up. So there's training. There's so many trainers out there. So many trainers out there. And I think it's really important that, as a matter of fact, I think training gets abused or looked down upon. Training is one thing, but I think, because I know you, it's not just training, it's coaching and mentoring and holding people accountable and being there to support and lift them up too. Not just training, you go in for your 3 or 4 days or whatever, you leave, and then they're wondering what the heck. Also in that, you can train all you want to on products, but I think you train people on processes and word tracks and how to overcome objections and all the nuances that go into being a superstar salesperson. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, 100%. There's a danger in training these days because look, there's a lot of people who are just fantastic at social media. And so they look like they're very effective and passionate trainers when you watch their videos, but they've never done anything actually on the showroom floor or on the service drive.
Yeah, I've met a few of them there. Yeah. I mean, excuse me, but yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
So, here's how I've always looked at training. In fact, when, I was talking with this organization about coming on board, here's what I told them. I said, look, here's how I look at training. First thing is this: number one, is it ethical? If it's not ethical, I will not train it. Okay. Number two, is it profitable? And what I mean by profitable is there benefit for the person delivering what I'm trying to train them on? And is there benefit for the person that training is landing on, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, if there's no benefit in it for the customer, then really what we're not even trying to train them. We're just trying to manipulate them, right? So I want to train people in a way where we can actually bring value that both sides can experience. And then here's really what I like to focus on, this third one. I say, is it repeatable? And here's what I mean by that. If I'm rolling into a dealership and let's say I'm working with 20 people, it does me no good to do some sort of super, super high level training that honestly, maybe 1 or 2 people in the room could repeat. So I really try and keep it simple. I boil it down to the psychology of why people think the way they think. Again, I'd like to plug in this statement here. Here's where a lot of trainers, they just train because something sounds cool or it makes them look cool on social media, but nobody's ever going to be able to repeat that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, very few people have the ability to repeat that. So if I'm going to go into a place and do training, it's got to be repeatable. Whatever I'm trying to teach them, it has to be simple enough that they can actually repeat it. I like to tell them like this: look, I'm sharing with you the skeleton, right? I'm sharing with you the basics of what you should be doing, why you should say it, what kind of reactions you should be looking for from the customer. Now, the skin, right? The flesh, the muscles, all that stuff, that's where your own personality comes into it. Because the reality is this: Russell, there's things I could say to a customer that you would never be able to get away with saying because of my personality. There's things you could say I would never be able to get away because of your personality. And I think if we're not honest enough with ourselves to realize that that's a real thing.
Absolutely.
All we're doing is we're producing automatons, right? Just go repeat this word track. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I don't think they last either, salespeople that are trained like that.
Well, they don't, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to repeat something that they heard somebody else say in a way the other person would have said it.
Ineffective, does not work. You have to be yourself, period. So listen, it's quite an honor, and it says a lot about Shottenkirk too. I happen to work with a lot of the Shottenkirk stores now as well, and gotten to know some of the team. But in order for you to be on full time to establish these kind of milestones of recognition and things like that, they obviously know training is not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing developing, mentoring, coaching platform in order to keep people on target and move into the next level, or it's all about nothing,
100%. 100%. I've never been around an organization that from the top down believes in training as much as this organization here, which is probably why earlier I was able to honestly say I really feel like I found the perfect job for me. There's been a seamless alignment of how we see what should be happening within the organization, and it's good to know that Mr. Shottenkirk, Keith Sheldon, who's our COO, RJ Shottenkirk, president, that we're all on the same page when it comes to training, right? Our people are going to train, or they're more than welcome to go somewhere else and not train. Okay. But if you're going to be on our team, we're going to train. We like to joke around because our corporate offices that I'm sitting in right here, we're at the Star in Frisco. So the Dallas Cowboys world headquarters, I could throw a rock and hit it. And so we like to bring up our Cowboys analogies, but it hasn't been to create successful points here lately. So
yeah, well, I was recently at those offices where you're at and saw your office, and I think you're creating a podcast studio too, as a matter of fact. But anyway, it's like first class, A+++ facility.
I'll tell you what, Russell, if you walk 10 feet that direction right there, I've been working on that podcast studio for the past week or so, and it is coming together. It's looking really good. So we'll be able to produce all of our in-house training videos, and then we'll be able to host our podcast. Lots of great ideas. Like, we'd love to bring people that we know in here, but I was talking to RJ Shottenkirk about this morning. I'd love to bring like our top producers, like maybe quarterly, our top salesperson, our top service writer, our top technician, businessman.
I think that's great.
Bring them here, and then that way we can do a podcast and let our other people learn from the peers that are actually hitting home runs day in and day out.
Yeah, I don't think you see a lot of that. Not to the level that you're talking about.
Let me tell you about a partner that's actually helping dealers get ahead, Global Dealer Solutions. If you've been wondering how to use AI the right way in your dealership, especially on the fixed side, these are the people to call. Their team gets it. Not just the tech, but the real challenges that dealerships face every day. We're talking about conversational AI that doesn't just respond, it converts. It books appointments, follows up with service leads, even answers customer questions with actual relevance. It's not replacing your team. It's making sure your team can focus on what matters most, closing ROs and building relationships. But GDS isn't just about AI. They train your staff, drive traffic, and tighten up processes so your results stick long after the tool is turned on. And everything they do is built around one goal: growth that is real. If you want more service traffic, better follow-up, and a partner that's always a step ahead, check them out. Visit gdsdealers.com, follow them on LinkedIn at gdsdealers, or just shoot them a message and ask, what would you do with my store? And see what they come back with. Global Dealer Solutions, process-driven, people first, always on it.
Good stuff, Cherry.
Well, you touched on this a little bit, Tim, but I'm going to ask you it directly. What is missing in that step after training and before sales? Why do so many people fail to implement what they've learned?
Good question, man. Oof.
All right.
She got you on that one, Tim.
Okay, I'm just gonna be me. Okay. Which means I may say something that might need to be edited out. Maybe not. I don't know.
I doubt it. You should hear some of the things we've heard on here. Go ahead.
Look, here's the deal. You got to start with the right person, first of all. There's a Lou Holtz quote that says, I found the key to motivation: eliminate those who don't have it. And
wow.
I think a lot of times in the car business, first of all, we're very reactive when it comes to staffing. instead of being proactive, meaning that we're always looking for an upgrade, which is something that I talk about constantly, because the model in our business has always been, especially on the sales side, fixed ops does have turnover, right? But not nearly what it is on the variable side usually. But most of the time it goes, holy crap, I need 7 people, instead of always looking and trying to track. And so what happens when we are reactive in our hiring processes is you just hire whoever comes along. And in these days, it's getting harder and harder to find that person that truly wants it. And when I say want it, that's really the variable right there, right?
It is.
Like we've got to be willing to adjust in our business too. I know that we've got several of our stores that have, because of the markets that they're in, they've gone to shortened work weeks, and I mean, just things to attract people, because most of the folks that rolled into the car business, the time that like you and I did, Russell, we were pretty simple when it came to the motivation thing, right? How much money can I make? It was about, can I make this much? Can I make this much? Can I make this much? And I'm not saying that that's a better way to look at it than how people look at it with generations that have come after us. In fact, if we're going to be honest, that they probably have a more healthy outlook on what it is, right? And it's about achieving that work-life balance. And so that's one of the things that I tell people when I'm training them. I'm like, look, first of all, if you don't have a work-life balance, then you're going to sacrifice one of them. It's just going to happen, right?
That's right.
Now, to achieve a work-life balance, that means that you have to be very effective during the time that you're within the walls of the dealership. And the only way to achieve that is to better yourself and to continually develop yourself. And that's where the training piece comes in. If I'm rolling into a store, I tell them, I say, look, I'm not here to train you, because here's the truth. I can't train you in a day. I can't train you in 3 days. What I do when I come through town, when I come to visit our stores, I throw out nuggets and I help you. But the training comes after I'm gone, right? When you go grab somebody else that was in this same class and you say, hey, look, we both got 45 minutes free time right now. Let's role play that thing that Tim talked about.
I love it. Yeah, there you go.
Let's go back and forth.
Yeah.
Now here's bringing it full circle back to your question, Charity. Management must be involved in the training. I know that if I go into a store and if I'm doing training for a group of people and there's no manager present in that training, my first thought is they probably think they're flattering me by showing, oh, well, we know we can trust Tim with our people. But really what I'm thinking is, how do you know you can trust me with your people? I would never have let somebody come into my store and train my people without me having either by myself or having some other management representation in there to be able to say, you should be able to stop a trainer and go, actually, you know what, Tim, at our store, we actually do it this way because of our clientele or whatever the case may be, right? But management has to be involved so that we're all on the same page, because where the huge disconnect comes, and I hear this because I follow up people, right? I follow up when I'm coming back next time. Well, that thing you said last time, yeah, I was going to try that. And my manager said, no, do it this way. That's the biggest disconnect right there. It's when leadership does not support the training that's been brought into the store.
It reminds me of, that's about the time I met you, but I used to go to Phoenix as well. And I remember developing that I still have today with Tom Bias, used to be at Showcase Honda. You remember Tom?
I do.
Phenomenal guy. Anyway, there's a lot of connection there, which is why we still stay in touch today. It's been probably 6 months since I texted him. But I remember one time, because I was out there so much and got to know him, he's really involved. Most of the managing partners were always involved. And so he invited me in one day to not just talk about car research, but about sales and some of the things I've learned in sales over the years, et cetera, and some of the personal anecdotes that I had. And he was in there the whole time. He said, Russell, I don't let people talk to my salespeople unless I'm there, and I know who is actually going to be talking to him and what the message is going to be. And I thought that was really profound, because more times than not, if somebody's trying something, the general manager, whoever is not involved, they're saying, yeah, don't do it that way, do it this way. It's over.
Yeah. And the danger of that is 90% of what I was talking about in a training probably would have worked perfectly for that store. But if there was 10% that the sales manager says, hey, we don't do it that way, or the drive manager says, hey, actually, no, don't worry about what that guy said. Now, all of a sudden, that infiltrates the other 90%, right? They've just discredited everything that you've said when you've gone in there. So, it can exponentially kill the amount of training that you've gone out there by just disagreeing with one thing because you weren't present to do it live, right?
Absolutely. Now I'm going to backtrack. I want you to repeat that. I was trying to write it. I want to make sure I got it down about Lou Holtz. I found the key to motivation. Eliminate those who don't have it. Is that right?
That's it.
I love that.
It was his way of saying, look, as a leader, there's only so much I can do to motivate you, right? Ultimately, if you're the kind of person that's not able to motivate yourself, there's only so much I can do to get you motivated. I just, I used to tell this to general managers all the time, especially on the sales side. I would do classes with 50 or 60 salespeople in there, and I'd get a call from a general manager, and they'd be like, hey, man, this guy came back from training, man, and he's still just struggling with this and this and this. And here's what I used to tell him. I'd say, Russell, if you were a general manager, here's what I would have told you. I say, Russell, look, training's worth a 2-point bump. If you send me a 7, I'll send you back a 9. If you send me a 5, I'll send you back a 7. But if you keep sending me 2s, all you're going to get back is a 4, right? And it was my way of making that general manager confront, look, training is only good for so much. It's still, the training has to land on a person that will receive the training and then have the courage to actually go use the training. So it all starts with the hire. Did we do a world-class job of selection and hiring, or did we just hire 7 people because we needed them? Or, did we use a people trafficker, which is what I call, So
which one is it, Jim?
Whose business model is for someone not to make it so that they can recycle and be sold again. I don't know.
I know it's like, listen, it's devastating. I don't even know what it is now. Do you happen to know what the turnover is of salespeople nationally? It's high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never even say that number on anything being recorded, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll listen. It's high, and it's just like rinse, repeat. It's like, and a lot of it is just because the speed of the pack is set by the leader. They're just not really involved, or they're just looking for 4s out of 2s, just like you said, et cetera. But really, doesn't it really boil down to how much you care about the people, what you pour into your people, and that they count, they matter, they make a difference? Isn't it important for them to understand that? And this is a vehicle to achieve their whys. I mean, well, listen, you've been doing this all these years, and I'm going to find it hard to believe, just knowing you the way I do, that your training is exactly the same as it was when you got started. You keep developing and nurturing and et cetera. And what drives you? It drives salespeople the same way, which gets you excited because you're able to instill that in them if they really want that. But you can't lead them to drink. You can just lead them to the trough, right? Right.
Yeah. As far as, just like when we talked about my title's not National Training Director. It's National Development Director, because those are different things, right? Training is it's something.
Sounds a hell of a lot better than training, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said about, one way. So everybody makes fun of me because I'm reading books, I'm doing stuff, I'm watching this.
That's what I was looking for. So you're reading.
Yeah. I mean, so every quarter, here's the one for this quarter. So this quarter, I've started a general manager's book club. And so we do a quarterly general managers meeting, and at that meeting, I give each one of them a copy of a book. And then there's a handful of us that get together the first and third Tuesdays of each month for 30 minutes, hard stop. And we just talk about the book, and we talk about,
I love it.
What did I read from this book that helped me in the business world, right, at the dealership? And what did I read in this book that helped me just kind of as a human being, husband, father, friend, brother, whatever the case may be. But it's important. Like even when I'm training, it's funny when I've got people that I've never trained before, they'll ask me a question. And Russell, without fail, I always say, well, what do you do? Before I ever answer a question, by the way, I've got 4 daughters and they hate it because I do this with them too. Hey, Daddy, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think, babe? Well, I think this. Well, why do you think that way? I'm trying to teach them to think rather than teaching them just how to receive answers all the time.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing with when I'm training in the business world. But I'll tell them, I say, look, I'll always ask you what you do first, because as long as I've been doing this, there's still a chance that your response was going to be better than what I was going to tell you. And I legit want to hear what people have to say before I tell them what I think they should say, right? Because
wow.
Isn't training at the end of the day, isn't it just an accumulation of other people's stuff that we've heard over the years that we tried and saw that it worked?
Yeah.
And I never want to miss those golden nuggets, because sometimes I can't tell you how many times over the year that I had somebody say something profound that I don't know what the nice way to say it is. I was not expecting anything profound to come out of their mouth, and they just completely handed me a golden nugget. But I never would have got those gold nuggets if I would have just answered instead of asking them what they would do before I try and coach them or answer them.
I think that's really powerful. I recently heard this, and I now you just brought it back up, so I'm going to put it back on the radar. But so many people I talk to, when I ask them a question, they say, "Oh, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." Well, if you did know, what would your answer be? And it's because they really do know. People say they don't know. They know something. They're just afraid to say it out loud, or they want to hear what you have to say first. All right, Charity, bring it on.
Let's pivot a little bit. And let me ask you, how can we objectively look back at our past efforts to make improvements?
Ooh, that's a good one.
So there's a book called Flawless Execution. It's written by a retired Air Force pilot, James Murphy, I believe his name was. But he talks about in the Air Force how they always did a debrief after each mission. So they would go on a mission, and then as soon as the mission's over, they immediately went into a room and they did a debrief, and they broke down the whole mission. Hey, what worked? What didn't work? How can we improve? If we were going to do this mission again, what would we do differently? And I was introduced to this book by Vic Keller when I was with Van Tile, right? And I kind of fell in love with this idea of a debrief, and it's something that I brought with me here to Shottenkirk, and we got many general managers who participate in this. But what it is, it's one of the things he talks about in the book is when they go to do their debrief, one of the keys is they have to check their ego at the door. So if we're rolling into a room, a lieutenant, a captain, whoever ranks just go out the window at that point. All that we are is we're trying to objectively take a look at things. And so I think, first of all, this only happens if you genuinely and truly want to improve yourself and get better. Because if you don't want to do that, which is most people just want to hang out in their comfort zone and gripe about why their results aren't getting any better, right? But if you truly want to get better, you've got to be willing to objectively take a look at what was done, right? Be willing to throw rank out the window. Be willing to have somebody who maybe in the dealership is not quite stature-wise where you are, however you want to say that. Let them be able to speak about your performance and what they think. Like I said, sometimes those golden nuggets come from places you never would have expected them to come from. And honestly, the longer that you've been in a store, I would like to say that the longer you've been in a place, it helps your vision. But the more I've seen it, I think it hurts your vision. I think you become jaded, and there's something called a scotoma, which is like a blind spot that develops over time and that you don't even realize it's there. And I think a lot of times in our business, we can develop those blind spots because we just don't want to acknowledge them. Hey, if I don't acknowledge it, it's not really there, right? It's not the case.
No.
So we got to be willing to want to get better, even if it hurts our pride a little bit, which is probably what prevents us from truly getting better across the board, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Remaining in that comfort zone. Charity knows all too well how I feel about that. It's the kiss of death, man. Life is at the edge of it. So what, here's a great question. Is it easier to train a veteran or someone who is new? That's a good question. What say you, Tim?
Let me say this. I mean, obviously, new people, I would say it's obviously easier to train a new person, right? Because that sponge hasn't been watered yet. They're willing to take they haven't tried the things that I would tell them. So they're not coming in with any sort of preconceived notion about what will and won't work, right? They're just, oh, this guy who's been doing this a long time said this, I should probably try this. So I think obviously it's easier to train a new person. It's so much more fulfilling for me when I get a veteran. Here's why. Look, my training style, and Russell, you know this, my training style is very hands-on role play, real world scenario. Here's what I always tell them. Look, there's 10% of customers that are so difficult, ain't nothing you can do. Send a little amount of hell just to bother you, right? Forget about those 10%. There's 10% of customers that are so easy, nobody even needs help or training to take care of those customers. Let's focus on that middle 80, right? And so I really try and drill down with real world scenarios that they're working in. My favorite kind of training is what I call wildcard training. And wildcard training is when I just get a group of people in a room and I go, all right, what are you struggling with? What's the last thing that you experienced that was a difficulty for you? And I let the class bring, the things that they want training on to me, and then I'm able to coach them. And I feel like one of my strengths is I'm able to coach them in a way from a perspective of somebody who's done it tens of thousands of times. I'm not just some trainer who read a book and I'm good on social media. I'm able to say, no, hey, look, if you'll say it to a customer this way, here's why it works. Here's the psychology of why it works. And I'm real enough to also say, and it'll work about 60% of the time. I think too many trainers try to be so dogmatic with, if this works all the time or it doesn't work at all. Man, that's a bunch of, nobody believes that stuff anyway.
No,
right?
no.
So just be real with them during the training. And I can't tell you how many veterans over the years came up to me after a training and said, hey, you know what, man, when they told me I had to come to training, I was just pissed off. They're what I call hostages, right? In training.
Yeah.
I was just pissed off at the world.
Yeah.
But man, I'm glad I came. That might be one of the most fulfilling parts of my job is when I turn a veteran, right? And look, the veteran may not have needed 90% of the things that I said, but if they're going to be honest with themselves, they either learned something new or they were reminded of something they used to do, and for whatever reason, they stopped doing it. So,
yeah, I can see where that would be very rewarding. I was that veteran at one time. I knew it all, and which means I really didn't know jack diddly. I didn't know it all. And I've had a few people in my life, although very few, that were like you. And I learned some amazing things from them. And so, I could see where that would be. Somebody comes in, they think they're being held hostage and they leave with a new perspective, but something in them was ready for more. You just happened to be the catalyst that opened that door for them to continue on down that road. At least I think so.
Yeah. Well, Tim, how do you keep such a positive perspective?
wow, I don't know that anybody has ever told me that I keep a positive perspective. So
I got that.
No, I'm just kidding.
Researching you.
Because what's the alternative? I mean, is the alternative just to be miserable? Like, and to get down. Look, I
Well, you damn sure wouldn't be a good trainer if that was the case, would it?
yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to be trying to genuinely help people, you got to bring the energy. I don't know if you can read it. It'll probably show it backwards, but the name of this book is The Energy Bus. Rule number 6, I believe, in the book is don't allow energy vampires on your bus, right? If I'm ever doing a training and there's somebody sucking the life out of the room, I'll just tell them flat out right in the middle of training. I'll say, hey, man, you can go ahead and head out. You're good. We'll talk after the training. Because all it takes is one person to suck the energy out. I like to tell people this all the time. It's a saying I heard a long time ago. And it says this. It says, are you the type of person that brightens up a room by walking into it? Or are you the type of person that brightens up a room by walking out of it? Right? And those are really
I love that.
So, I think that's what I would say is I care about people. And so I feel the responsibility to bring the energy and to be the example that I want them to be. If I'm leading a group of people, whether I want to realize it or not, they're going to match my energy. And so it's up to me to bring the energy. Now, look, it's funny how people who've never trained before won't understand this, but it's amazing how drained you can be after just 3 hours of training. I was telling somebody one time, I said, look, when you're training, you have to be 100% ready for anything that comes at you, right? Because you can't just as the trainer go and stop whatever you're doing and think about something for 5 minutes, right? You got to be on top of your game, moving with quality responses to everything. And so it's taxing, it's mentally draining. So I may be full of energy up in front of that room, but if I'm traveling, I tell you what, man, when I'm done training for that day, it's straight to the hotel room for me because my body, my mind, it just needs to recoup, right? So, but when you're in front of people, you definitely got to bring that energy. And it's easy to bring the energy if you care about them. I was telling a group this not too long ago. I said, I was talking to them about how much in dollars that we spend to just get the phone to ring or to get an internet lead to come in, right? And I'm trying to remind these folks, look, here's why we're so focused on making sure quality responses are going out, because it costs real money to make that phone ring, right? Or to make that internet lead come in. I'm able to listen to all of our calls from all of our stores, right? And there's so many times where, trust me, if you're watching me in my office here, listening to calls, you're not seeing energy. Most of the time you're seeing this. But here's why I'm that way. And I tell them this, I say, look, when I hear somebody completely blow a phone call, in my mind, I don't hear that just wasted X amount of dollars of Mr. Shottenkirk's money. What I hear is this. That's a father who's not able to provide for his family the way that he should be. That's a single mom who can't put an extra 2 or 3 Christmas gifts under the tree for that year for their kids, right? Mm-hmm. Like when I hear somebody make a mistake or not do what they've been trained to do, I don't necessarily hear what that would equate to business-wise. I always hear what it equates to for them as a person, right? Because ultimately, if my motivation as a trainer can be to help you provide better for you and your family, then I don't need to worry about the business part, right? The business part takes care of itself.
Yes, it does.
But if you feel that I only care about the business part, then you're not listening to me when I come in to train you anyways.
Well, good stuff. Let me ask you this. I think only 1 or 2 times we ever gotten through all the questions. What trends do you see shaping the future of automotive, and how should dealerships prepare for those changes?
It's a people economy, right? Like I think that with everything in our world going to AI and some sort of electronic solution to everything, yes. I think that the importance of people, not to keep coming back to that, but it's really what I believe at my core, right? it's funny. We talk a lot about traffic management because that's where things start, right?
Right.
And so here's something I've been saying for years. I say, look, if you're providing the customer a subpar experience when they show up to the dealership, then all that you're doing, here's what I like to say. I say you're financing your own negative reputation campaign. Hey, let's spend more money on this. Let's get more people here. Let's get more people. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. You want to provide more people in your community with a bad experience. Is that what I'm hearing? And you're going to pay to do that, right? Because the truth is this, if we would nail the people part, if we would provide a world-class customer experience when they show up to the service drive, to the showroom floor, traffic management takes care of itself.
Yes, it does.
They become our positive reputation campaign managers. They become dealership apostles out there for us. Because when's the last time you had a truly excellent experience somewhere? You probably talked about it with everybody that you know.
Yep.
Other side of that coin's true too, right? We have that horrible experience. We probably talk about that too, right?
Yeah, I seem to, if somebody meets my expectations, not that big a deal. You know, when it's appropriate, I'll mention something. But when they exceed my expectations, I go out of my way to make it a point, let people know. And the same on the flip side, when it is a horrible experience, of course, they tell more people about that than they do a good one, right?
They do. Yes, the keyboard warrior is a real thing.
Yes.
Sure is. Well, we're running out of time, Tim. Are there any questions we didn't ask you today that you wish we did?
Yeah.
First of all, love that question. Think I'm going to steal that.
That's the question of all questions.
There's that golden nugget. See, I told you, but I was expecting one from you, Charity, just for the record, right? So,
thank you.
You know, I'm just, I'm thankful and grateful, you know, to be on your podcast, Russell. You know, we've been connecting off and on throughout, you know, for over 20 years now. And I think it's cool just to see, I think the screen that I'm looking at right in front of me is kind of the picture of what I do for a living, development, right? I look back to see what I used to do, what you used to do, and to kind of see where we are now. And I think it's a pretty cool picture. And it's what development's all about. I've been with Shottenkirk. They were a client of mine when I was running my own business for about 3 years before I came on with them full time about 3 years ago. So I've been around the organization enough now to have seen people that I trained as a didn't know how to tie their shoes salesperson who are now finance directors, right? New car directors, general manager. I can think of off the top of my head 3 general managers in our group right now that I trained as salespeople. And, you know,
wow.
For me, that's a beautiful picture, right? Seeing somebody, and that's what it's what the automotive business offers all of us. It offers us opportunity. It's the reason that we come to this business. You know, I always like to say the car business is equal opportunity at its finest.
That is.
Doesn't care what your education is, doesn't care what side of the tracks you grew up on. It cares about how bad you want it, and it'll reward you for the results.
That's right. And what you're willing to do, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, although there's a lot of people that don't really view it that way, but it's the great equalizer, no doubt about it. From education to whatever, you know, if you want an opportunity to achieve the great American dream, you can certainly do it through the automotive industry. But you need to make sure you surround yourself with people like Tim, just to get the full benefit. But Tim and Sherry, thank you. She's really the instrumental one at coming up with all the questions. Tim was asking me the other day in a text, well, something about questions or something like that. And I'll tell you, she dials it right in. So Charity, thank you for all you do. Tim Tipton, we greatly appreciate you, and I would like to reserve the right to have you back on because there's a lot of stuff that we actually didn't get. So you are not a trainer for Shottenkirk Automotive Group. You are a what again?
National Development.
Development. I knew that. I just wanted to hear you say development. That's what it's really about, developing people. When you hear trainer, it's like it's overused. developing people, that means a whole lot. Coaching, mentoring, developing, training, holding people accountable, etc. Glad you're on here. Tell everybody at Shottenkirk that Russell and Charity said hello. And thank you all very much out there in WTF land. And this is another successful wrap for What the FixedOps. And pretty soon you're going to see Tim everywhere. Like him, love him, reach out to him if you have any questions. Find out what books he's reading, how he got where he got. But let's engage. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great day.